topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Texas, my home state. No longer living there anymore. But hey, welcome to Ask the Expert show. This is our 16th year. God, 2 months away from 17 years. I hope I can get used to saying 17. Hey, I got to tell you, we've got the most exciting show for you over the next 25 minutes. But I want to share something. This is kind of behind the scenes. We're doing our public insurance adjuster show. And I got to tell you, we do shows on legal, health, financial, and home improvement. And I got to tell you, our show here in Texas, we have one in California and we have one in Florida. These have become our top viewing shows of all of our shows. Some of our experts have been with us for 10 or 15 years. And I don't know why, it's become our number one show. And I think mostly a lot of people don't know what a public insurance adjuster does. And that's why we have a show like this. Let me introduce you to our expert, Sarah Mitchell Butler of Provident Public Adjusters. Good morning, Sarah.
Hi, good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Don't you dare get married again. You got too many names.
You're right. You know, the funny thing is my last name is hyphenated because my ex-husband's last name was hyphenated.
Oh.
So that was his name. I didn't even get to keep any of mine.
Oh. Well, I got to tell you, I always like to do this on air, and I don't pre-warn you. We get so many emails from listeners going, they love your personality and they love how informed you are in order to educate people who are listening and watching the show. But you get just a lot of compliments just on you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll take all of the fan mail. If you want to forward the fan mail here, I'll frame it on my wall so that way I know somebody's enjoying it.
We'll start doing that. So, you know what? The biggest question, I know you get this all the time. What is a public insurance adjuster?
You're right, Steve. That is the number one question I get because people don't know we exist. It's quite interesting to have a profession that people don't even know is available to them. But
Yes.
What a public insurance adjuster does is we represent the policyholder, not the insurance company, in representing them for an insurance claim. So we negotiate with the insurance company, present the damages, quantify the damages, and present a package and a proof of loss compelling enough to have them comply to the policy provisions and make appropriate payments.
I want to tell people this. Now, I want to preface this that every claim is different. But about 15 years ago in Dallas, Dallas gets tornadoes once in a while, hail, wind. So I had a claim and the insurance company offered me $30,000. I don't know anything about, floods and roofs, nothing. So I'm like, I got to accept their $30,000. And a friend of mine said, did you talk to a public adjuster? And I said, what is a public adjuster? And he gave me a name And I ended up hiring them. Again, I want to preface this that every claim is different, but that $30,000 claim, I ended up getting $130,000
Yeah,
because I had
all
a
day.
public adjuster.
All day. Yeah, that happens more often than not. Obviously, it relates to the damages, but Steve, you said something at the beginning of your, the introduction that this is becoming a popular show, and I might have a little bit of insight as to why.
Oh,
The climate of the industry is shifting. We've had a lot of very across the country and in the industry, we've had a lot of very large losses with the hurricane that happened in Florida several years ago, several $billion in loss. In Texas, several years ago, we had the freeze. So, one of the largest losses in Texas, to the tune of several $billion. And so, the purse strings are getting a little tight, right? So,
yes.
and then more homeowners are needing that help, and policyholders are needing that help in navigating their insurance process. We have a lot more natural disasters happening. Look at the tornadoes, the wildfires, the hailstorms. These natural disasters are increasing in number, as holistically speaking, maybe not if you're looking at it on an annual basis, but holistically speaking. So we have more losses now. We have a little bit tighter of a purse string from the carrier side, and so more people need help, and so people are looking for help, and so maybe that's why this is becoming more and more of a popular show, is because people didn't know that this help existed before.
Sarah, also, people don't realize that you handle businesses. And if you just think about maybe you're a restaurant and you had a flood and it ended up going next door
Mm-hmm.
and hurting their business and maybe even shutting the business down. That's another area that you deal in.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's a very complex type of a loss that, it takes some expertise and experience to quantify, because not only are you looking at the damages to the structure, the business contents, but you're also looking at, well, how does that affect the labor, right? You can't, if you're out of business for 2 weeks, a month, or whatever it might be, uh, if I'm an employee and I'm not getting paid because my company's not open, as you mentioned, a restaurant, I got to go find another job. And so now, as a business owner, there are, every policy is different, but there are provisions and policies to help the business owner when those types of things come up. And then, you've got loss of, your material, right? So if you're a restaurant and you're shut down for 2 weeks or a month, well, now you have food spoilage, right? So there's a lot of different things to quantify. You've lost income, while you've been closed down. So there's a lot to quantify there, and people like us, these are areas that we look for. We look for the different ways to ensure that the policyholder is made whole because of the loss incurred.
I have to ask this question. Please take it for what it's worth. You're in a business that is mostly men. I mean,
Mhm.
with all the people, companies contacting us who actually watch these shows wanting to become our expert, I don't remember one female ever calling me. What made you go into this business?
Well, my background was in construction, and so I think that helped a lot with what I do, is having, somewhat of a good base understanding. And then on this side, I enjoy helping people. I enjoy solving people's problems, and so, I don't think that necessarily is a gender bias type of
Right.
a skill set, but just me as a female, I have an extraordinary amount of empathy, and so I've just learned to channel that, in this arena, and still, be effective with what I do to help the homeowner, the best that I can, or the policyholder.
That's amazing. I know our California show, they've been with us for several years, and they always bring on a guest on their show, and I've never had a female. I'm
Oh,
so proud of you that
oh,
you have
thanks.
conquered this, and maybe other women will get involved in this business.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I've heard it said before that a lot of the insurance companies will have a lot of female adjusters, especially from the desk, because females as a whole, as our gender, we have that protective nature in us,
Mm,
right? We protect the den. And so on the carrier side, they see you see, the funds and their company as there being a person to protect the best interests of their the insurance company. And so I've heard that said before. Well, mine is just doing the same thing for the policy holder. I do feel very protective of my clients and very passionate. I mean, when I see any type of injustice or something that I feel is wrong, I get really angry about it, and just channel that to help them the best I can.
Sarah, I read all the time about these insurance companies that are making millions of dollars. And I
Hmm.
want people to know, don't feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
Get it,
Yeah.
get as much
Yeah.
as you can. And I'm just going to tell people this because I am experienced. Don't try to do this yourself. Don't
Right.
try. You're going up against Goliath.
Right.
And
Exactly.
when they hire a public adjuster like Provident Public Adjusters, you're making the playing field a lot more level. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. 100%. I mean, I've likened it to fighting the ocean. These insurance companies are multi. I mean, if you think about it, insurance touches everything in this world. It touches the air we breathe, the paper on your desk, all of your furniture, your body. Insurance touches everything in this world. And so I look at it like the ocean. Well, how do you beat the ocean? You can't beat the ocean, but you can
Right.
learn how to ride the waves and learn how to crush those surfs. And that's how I look at this. Is every claim is a way for me to learn how to crush.
So I've got so many questions. How do content claims differ from structural claims? And why are the contents often underpaid?
Yeah, that's a good question. So contents claims are extraordinarily detail oriented. Okay, so just the way we have to quantify a claim, a structural damage. Well, we have a software that has already created industry standard pricing across the board. Meaning, in your zip code, in your labor market with materials, they've already used it. There's a software, a multi-million dollar company that has already quantified, some good market prices. They have a baseline. Well, with contents, that's not the case. You might buy, a stapler from Staples, and I may buy it from the Dollar Tree. Those are
Mm,
different dollar amounts. So not only do we have the pricing, factor to quantify, but we also have to quantify the age, right? And so imagine if you have a house fire. Not only do you have to document the item itself, the stapler, you have to document the age, the price, and then you have to provide a photo. Well, how many people are going to go and take a picture of every little thing in their house? Um, and then even more than that, what about the staplers inside? Right? Who's going to think about all of those
yeah.
things? If you look at a painting on the wall, well, guess what? You have a frame, you have nails, all of those things add up, and it's dollars and cents. And so that takes a lot of time for every item to have to quantify and age and price. And, we have to look at it from a lot of different measures. And so that's probably the most differentiating factor. Is it's extraordinarily detail oriented, and there really aren't any industry standards, because what you have in your home is going to be very different from what I have in my home. And so
Yeah.
that's the biggest reason why. And a public adjuster knows a lot of these things, and so we have processes and teams in place and experience to be able to quantify these things, document these things, and understanding, well, the insurance company is okay paying to replace this item versus they might want to clean the item. Well, there's different factors that contribute to whether it should be cleaned or shouldn't be cleaned. There's so many different facets to contents, and a good quality skilled public adjuster can help navigate that.
Okay, I got it. You know, all these questions go in my mind when we're doing the show. Talk about content. About 20 years ago, I, idiot me, I don't know if it was lost or stolen. I had a Rolex, it was
Hmm.
gone. And I got to tell you, this is probably 20 years ago. It was so easy just getting uh, I guess, a jeweler to evaluate what it was worth. But
Hmm.
it just seems so easy. It can't be the same nowadays. In other words, you got to have more proof than we used to have to have.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to prove your loss. I mean, every insurance policy says it is your duty to prove the loss. Okay, and it just depends on the variable of the claim. So, for example, theft. Do you have any proof to say you had a Rolex at some point in time? Something like that.
Mm.
You probably have a receipt or a bank transaction somewhere or a photo somewhere at one point of your life showing you had that. You know, and so, that's what I would say to that. The other thing I would say is, it's funny you mentioned the Rolex. The one thing I see a lot of people get tripped up on with jewelry and, antiques and things like that is every policy is different about how you have to disclose or get additional coverages outside of a normal policy for those types of things. So you always want to check with your agent if you have any high value, high dollar, items you would like to insure are insured. Let your agent know because they might have to do an itemized coverage list for you.
Sarah, God, gold has just gone through the roof. How do you protect yourself when gold has gone so high with all, say, jewelry that you have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So, by the way, gold has gone down about $1,000 since the war. So if you're trying to buy,
Yes.
go get it now. I just looked online last night and I was trying to figure out, okay, what can I get today?
Yeah,
Um,
it's down
but to
about,
answer
it's
that
like
question,
46 now.
yeah, to answer that question, you need to look at your policy is what you
Okay.
need to look at. A lot of times there's not coverage for those types of things. You have to get for specialty things like that, you need to get with your agent and get the right type of coverage and the right type of policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So um, there's claims due to smoke and soot claims.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I heard they're underestimated by a lot of the insurance companies.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, Steve. And the reason for that is smoke, it's always going to depend on the, how do you call it? What's that word? The saturation
Mhm.
levels, right? So smoke, sometimes it is visible. You'll see soot webs in a corner somewhere. You'll see it at the HVAC vents, but soot is also not, in its basic form, it is not visible to the human eye. It's 0.03 microns. And so, because of that, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And soot and smoke, in its nature, it is not an agent that disappears on its own. It does, you can't just open the windows and put fans and it'll breeze its way out. You might be able to get rid of some of the odors, but the true protocol for soot and smoke remediation is extensive. And so just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it does need to be addressed. So that's why those get tricky, is because you can't always see it. And it's the way smoke works. It doesn't just decide to stop at one doorway. it continues to spread, run through the HVAC systems if power maintained, it was maintained on after the loss. And so it can be they're large losses because of that reason. They don't just decide to stop. And not only do they affect the structure, but they're going to affect all of the contents in a home as well. They don't just decide to go around your couch and not land there. So, yep, that's a very big thing in my industry.
We just got a text in from Harvey in Galveston. He says, being a business owner and a homeowner, I love the show. I learned so much from it. Being close to the water, don't I have to worry about mold? And is mold covered in my policy?
Hi, Harvey. Thank you for listening. So that's a great question. And yes, microbial growth is always the word you want to use, is always going to be a concern anytime there's any type of moisture around, whether that's by the coast or in your home with a water loss. And so you do want to look at your policy because every policy is different. Some policies have mold endorsement in there. Some have very specific exclusions. And so there's hundreds and hundreds of policies out there. And so you do always want to verify with your agent about whether you have coverage or not. The other thing you want to verify is you can look at it two different ways. If you had a water loss and then you had, mold as an ensuing damage of the water loss, sometimes policies cover that. Sometimes policies will say, okay, if you found mold and there wasn't a water loss, there might be coverage sometimes as well. So you always want to be able to ask your agent, one, do I have it? And two, when does it apply and when does it not apply?
So I can't believe this show goes by so fast.
I
Tell
know
people
it.
how
I
they
know.
can reach you.
Yes. So our website is www.txclaims.com. There's a place you can submit your information if you wanted us to get back with you. We're pretty good about that. I've got an awesome team who can quickly get back to you with any questions you may have. Or you can call us at 817-692-9144. So we're available anytime for that.
Well, we're the lucky ones to have you. Sarah will be back again with us next month. Sarah, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Have a wonderful week. And we're so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay. Hey, that's Provident Public Insurance Adjusters. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back in with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.